Hello and welcome to my channel LB Plans. My name is Elle and today I'm sharing a little bit of a different video. I am sharing with you guys my hobby, which is soap making. I stumbled into this pre-pandemic, but it's funny how things jog your memories. So I remember my brother's grandmother used to make soap on her front porch. So here I am. So what I'm doing right now is I like to go ahead and pre-separate all of my oils and get them together, with the exception of coconut oil is in one container, and a mixture of yellow and ivory shea butter is in another container. I like to strain my shea butter. It's just in my experience, I realized that shea butter can have particles in it. So I like to strain those out. And that's what you're seeing me doing here. So I never mix my shea butter directly in. And sometimes my coconut oil, like I think I'm soaping at like 76 degrees. So sometimes it can start to solidify. So by using a warmer shea butter, it can help melt it. Sometimes, not all the times. But I am making two different batches of the exact same soap. So this is my oatmeal soap. I decided to make a unscented version and a scented version. So you see me switching back from the containers, and that's just how I am. I like to put tops on things just to keep stuff, sterilized as much as possible. And I think it was at the bottom of my coconut oil started to solidify again, so I just wanted to mix that up very quickly. I think overall this process probably took me about 45 minutes. I would say with soap making, the hardest part is actually the setup, not the actual soap making. It's the prep that goes into it. So I am adding coconut milk to my soap mixture. And actually, I'm going to add it directly to my oil. So this is a Trader Joe brand. It doesn't have any guam in it, so no sugar, so it won't speed up acceleration. If you do use this, make sure you shake the can first. I did not shake the can first. And so it began to solidify. So I had to mix it to get it back creamy again. And I'm just pouring it directly into my oils. I did do a water replacement. So for the 3 ounces of milk that I'm putting in here, I took out 3 ounces in my lye mixture. This is Moroccan red clay, and I also added 4 tablespoons of grinded oatmeal. These are going to be natural exfoliants. They're very good for the skin. So, and plus the Moroccan red clay is going to give me a brownish look, which I think goes great with oatmeal. And so I'm just doing the same thing to both mixtures, but I like to do them at at separate times. I don't know. It's just how my mind operates. Yes, I could have made one large batter, but that didn't feel right. So here I am. And once I get it all mixed in, I'm going to add the essential oil to the second batter, which is a cashmere and silk type. This smells divine. It's a very soft, buttery, but powdery scent. I just love it. I actually use it in my fragrance oil. I actually use this fragrance oil in my body butter. So I do enjoy it, and I thought it would be a great complement to an oatmeal soap. And so I mix that in, and I'm being very particular to use different utensils when I add fragrance oil. Sometimes people have allergies to certain things, or they have sensitive skin. So I want to make sure that if anyone does use my soap, they know that this may have an allergen like coconut milk, or you might have skin sensitivity to a fragrance oil. And so that's why I typically sometimes makes 2 versions of the same soap, because I don't know, it's just, I think there's a good opportunity to be able to share something without the fragrance with it, because I still enjoy it, and it's a very good soap. Like I said, I stumbled into soap making right before the pandemic, and I just kind of hit it hard during the pandemic, and here I am. So mix, 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 mix. Oh my God. Okay, so the first batter, and as you can see, I did keep my lye mixture separate. It just makes it easier for me. But this lye mixture was warmer than the second lye mixture, and I did not mix it long enough. So I did want it to have more of a, I'm not going to say liquid consistency because that's not the right word, but a more runny. I did want it more runny than the second mixture. As you're going to see, there's a huge difference. So I was mixing it on low versus when I do the second one, I'm going to mix it on high, and you're going to see the difference in that. But this one just did not, it got to a very light trace. At that point, I could have kept mixing it to get it to a thicker trace, but it's very funny, like how you pour soap, how things can change. So pouring this at a very liquid made it very easy for it to come off of the wax paper. But the other one that I poured at a thicker trace, I had to make sure, one, there was no air bubbles in it, and two, it gave me a little fight to get it off of the freezer paper, not wax paper. So I'm moving right on to my second batch because I feel like I have time to let that one sit. So I'm just going to mix up my oatmeal and the clay and the milk just to make sure it has a good consistency before I add the lye water. I strain out my lye just because sometimes when lye sits, it gets lye flakes, and that's just weird. So I use the same strainer for that. Um, Moving all my containers out the way. I like to clean as I go as well. So a little mixing first, and then I'm going to put the same blender back in there because the first batch was the unscented. This is the one with the fragrance oil in it. And I'm going to mix this one on high a little bit longer, and you're going to see the difference in the pour and the consistency. It made a huge difference. This one definitely set up quicker, which that's what I expected it to do. That way I could texture the top. Yeah, it allowed me to go ahead and go through and texture the top, and you'll see what I'm saying in a minute. But yeah, it definitely went a whole lot thicker, and that was the right consistency. It was what I wanted to achieve. So, but it's also interesting how I used the exact same recipe, and the only difference was one had fragrance oil and the other one didn't. Um, but temperature and the amount of mixing makes a huge difference on what the thickness of the soap pour is going to be. So look at that. It's so thick and creamy. Oh my God. I think soaping is a very beautiful process. It allows for artistic um, opportunities to just to make anything out of soap, but it is dangerous. So I am wearing protective gear. I'm long sleeve. I have on tennis shoes. My hair is pulled back, and I have on safety goggles. Like, I don't play. I don't want to get lye on anything just in case because, yeah, I'm not about that life. So I wanted to give it a very simple texture on there and put a little oatmeal in the middle. Um, I had the idea of putting this a couple, oatmeal particles on the top. The only problem was that when it's time to cut the soap, it kind of leaves drag marks. So I was trying to alleviate that, and that was a disaster. So we'll talk about that later. And as you can see, the first one that I poured is still liquid. It has not set up. So I went ahead and decided to clean up my area while I gave that time to set up. And I think it took about 20 minutes, and it's still a very more fluid consistency, but it was enough for me to give it a very slight texture because I didn't want to over texture it anyway. And I wanted to be able to visually see the difference between the soaps. And so I was trying to debate on where I wanted to put the oatmeal. Again, thinking about drag lines. So I decided to put this one on the far edge of the soap. And then I'm going to go back and kind of comb over, if that's the, let's say spoon, not comb. I'm gonna spoon over it and tap it in, and that gave it a different pattern that I kind of like. So if you notice the first soap that is closer to the camera, it is very lighter because it's already set up. It is hot. That's one thing about soap making. It gets extremely hot. So they have a different color already, but they will be closer to the same color towards the end. So now I'm going to let these sit for 24 hours and I'll come back and do the cut. Okay, so it's the next day and we're ready to cut the soap. And yes, I have on gloves because the soap has not cured completely. It is solid enough for me to go ahead and cut it, but it's still soft and the lye is still active. It takes about 48 to 72 hours for the lye to be inactive for saponification to fully go through its chemical phase. So um, I don't play around just to be on the safe side. And as you can see, I'm having a tougher time getting this one off, but this is the one that had the thicker pour. And I just go ahead and shake off some of the extra debris. That way I don't drag it through, but yeah, whatever. You'll see what I do in a minute. Because it was completely my fault. And I knew that this was going to happen. And then next time I'll just take the drag lines. But when I went to cut it, I tried to cut it on the side. And my cutter is not long enough for this soap. So when I tried to cut it on the side, it began to lift. And now the back of my soap is resting on the bar. And oh my God, you can't go forward. You can't go down. It's just a disaster, right? So I had to do some quick thinking. Hindsight 22, I could have just got my screwdriver and removed it. The bar that it was, excuse me, the bar that it was sitting against. But quick thinking, I decided to get a cutting board and use that cutting board to give me something to leverage it on. Now, the beauty about soap, even though, this was torturous for me, and the bottoms have this like weird indent on them now because it pressed against the bar that it's supposed to rest against, so to speak. Um, I have like this weird indenture on the bottom, but it's okay because the soap is still soft enough, like a molding clay, where I can flatten those out and it'll be barely noticeable. And plus, this is handmade soap, so there are some imperfections, and that's okay. I think it's cool to see how it went through the gel phase. So you can see that the center partially gel. That means that the soap got really hot. And because of that, it normally gives it the brightest or deepest colors during that time. So to go into partial gel phase is fine. By the time that this cures in 4 to 6 weeks, you won't even notice it. Like this end piece, you don't even notice it, but I'm gonna get closer so you guys can really see it. You don't even see the gel on that side, but when I flip it on the other side, you can see where it didn't quite, like there's a circle there, but it's completely safe. It just means that the soap got really, really hot. And then we go to the second oatmeal soap, which this is the unscented one, and it had more of a liquid consistency. Now, when I go to take that soap out of oh wait, you can see the bar. You see the bar that I'm like in between the little plastic like acrylic piece. Yeah, that's what it was bumping up against. But notice how much easier it is for me to get this soap out of the freezer paper. I want to call it wax paper so bad. It just peels right off, no problem. And so this is the way that I was supposed to cut the other one, but I didn't want drag lines from the oatmeal in the center. So once I lined it up, you'll see how much more easier that this was. And again, the soap cutter is not long enough. It's made for like a 10-inch loaf, I believe, or a 12-inch loaf. I think it's made for a 10-inch loaf and I have a 15-inch loaf. So you see those little drag lines? That's from the oatmeal being to the top, but super easier. Sometimes it's just easier to deal with the drag lines than to try to prevent them. Yeah, so lesson learned. I will just cut it from the top and I will use very less deco. Again, the second bar, just trying to line it up a little bit. Boom. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? And this is basically it. So I'm going to put these on the curing rack and they're going to cure for about 4 weeks. And then I'll put them in a container to cure for the next 2 weeks. You can see the color difference. It's not that different now that I look at it, but you see on the right hand side, it has more of a deeper circle in the middle. That's because of it went through gels phase. I believe the other one went through gel phase as well. It's just that the soap on the right just got hotter. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video of me sharing one of my hobbies. Sometimes I think about opening back up my shop, but right now I just enjoy making these for people and for my family. If you have any questions for me, leave them down below. Until my next video, you guys take care. Bye.